Mazda is competing in the most competitive segment on the planet with the CX-50. This car goes up against vehicles like the legendary Toyota RAV4 and Honda CR-V. But Mazda is also pitching this as a premium option, competing with vehicles like the Acura RDX. Yet the cladding suggests it's off-road worthy, so in this video, we're going to find out, can this vehicle accomplish all of these tasks at the same time? TFL slip test. Now we're going to get various wheels stuck on purpose in these rollers to see if we can get unstuck. And the first test is the front wheel slip test. The rear wheels are on the ground, the front wheels are stuck. Let's see if the rear wheels can push us off. So we're settled, off the brake, onto the accelerator. And look at that, almost no slipping whatsoever. That rear axle was engaged and off we drove. A perfect result. The CX-50 up on the left, we can take a detailed look at its mechanicals. Up front, you're going to find a choice of 2.5-liter transversely mounted 4-cylinder engines. This one is the turbocharged model. On normal unleaded, this vehicle is rated at 227 horsepower. However, if you fill this CX-50 up with premium, Mazda says you'll get 256 horsepower. Now, that 4-cylinder is mated to a 6-speed, yeah, that's right, not an 8 or a 10, but a 6-speed conventional torque converter automatic transmission, and the fuel economy rating on this particular one is 25 mpg combined. Now as we look at the suspension, we have a strut style suspension. There you've got your lower control arm with the strut located above that. Now Mazda has redone and tweaked the damping for the 2024 model year to improve the ride quality. The CX-50 is based on the Mazda 3 platform, albeit much lengthened. Now as we move further back, you'll find the catalytic converter. Not a lot of underbody protection. This is not the Meridian trim, this is just the standard CX-50, although Mazda does claim that any CX-50 is more rugged than what you'd find out of the CX-5. You can see the drive shaft runs there above the exhaust to the rear suspension, which is a fairly basic torsion beam rear suspension. You've got individual corners on the left and the right side of the vehicle, and then you can see the beam up above that connects the two. We have these small shields that protect, or I should say probably deflect air around the suspension members, and then back here you can see the small little half shafts connected to the very exposed differential there. This of course is not intended to be much of a rock crawler because there is a lot of exposed stuff underneath there, and then out back you have a single exhaust port leading to twin exhaust outlets. Now for the diagonal test, the right front and the left rear are stuck in the rollers. The other two are going to have to engage to get us unstuck. Now in this Mazda, we have 3 different drive modes. We've got sport, normal, and off-road, and we're going to run the test in normal mode like you would every day, and then if we need to, we can try out the off-road mode. So we're nice and settled, off of the brake, onto the accelerator. A little bit of slipping, but you could hear the brakes engage, slow down the spinning wheels, send wheel speed to the tires on the ground, and off we went. Good result so far. Now stepping inside this Mazda, your first impression is an impression of width, and that's because the CX-50 is a full 3 inches wider than the CX-5. And the overall length of this vehicle is also longer than that of a CR-V and a Toyota RAV4, but it's not quite as long as something like a Subaru Outback. Now this is a premium interior, lots of nice stitched materials, specifically this one across the dash, and this contrasting stitching color continues everywhere, like along the seat. Now the seats themselves are fairly comfortable. One thing I dislike though is the fact you only have 2-way lumbar on the driver's side and no lumbar control over there on the passenger side. Now let's talk about the technology. Up front and center is the 10.25-inch display. Now what's interesting about this display, it does have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is great, and it is a touchscreen display, but only when you have Apple CarPlay activated. When I go back to the native Mazda system, it is no longer a touchscreen. You have to use this little twiddly dial down here in the center, similar to the BMW iDrive system. It's a pretty easy system to use once you get used to it. Mazda says they do this so you don't take your eyes or fingers away from the driving experience, but it is a little odd that you get touchscreen and actually dial control of Apple CarPlay, but not in the native system. Now the rest of the interior here, we've got a beautiful slim Mazda steering wheel with our steering wheel controls along the side portions. Of course, we have all the usual safety tech in this vehicle: adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, cross traffic alert, that kind of thing. And then the gauge cluster is also quite nice. It's a 7-inch partial display with mechanical dials on the left and the right side, which I think look really, really mint. And I love the fact that we still have physical climate controls not integrated into the touchscreen. Automatic climate control, dual zone, heated seats, ventilated seats, but it's great not having to fiddle with anything. It's all right there when you need it. We've got a piano black finish across the center, which I find to be easily scratched, a traditional volume knob, which is a huge win, a split bifold opening center console with your wireless charger located there in front of it, a fairly narrow wireless charger, it's worth noting. And then if we look up on the roof, this top spec model also has the full panoramic sunroof. All right, we're stepping it up a notch. 3 wheels are in the rollers. Only the left front is on the ground. Now, this is a more extreme test than you'd probably find in the real world, but that's what we do here. We want to push them to the limits to see how these all-wheel drive compare in a controlled environment. So, on the throttle, we're getting some spinning. Woohoo! But give it enough throttle, we got a little bit of torque transfer. The vehicle did skid around a little bit. I tried to keep it centered, but ultimately we were able to make it off the rollers. And I did feel a lot of torque transfer to that left front. I find the backseat of the CX-50 to be a little bit tight. This is my driving position at 6 feet tall, and I'm right about out of legroom, and I'm also right about out of headroom. This vehicle is lower than the CX-5, which gives it a very cool look, but it also definitely cuts down on headroom. Now, the rear bench is pretty comfortable. This does have seating for 5 people. In its Premium Plus trim, we have heated rear seats, and we do have USB ports, but they are USB-A, which is starting to look a little outdated. We also have a fold-down center armrest with 2 cup holders. And one interesting thing about the CX-50 is there is no second row recline. Now, as we lift open the power lift gate in this Premium Plus trim, we're going to find 31.4 cubic feet worth of space in the back, which is a little bit down compared to some of the Toyota and Honda competitors. And we also will find a 60-40 rear bench split. You can do it from either the seat side or the trunk side with these little levers, which is very, very handy. They do fold down flat if we scoot those seats a little bit forward, and that's going to open up to about 56.5 cubic feet worth of space back there. I really like this durable mat in this particular one, really nice and thick, feels super high quality. And then as we lift up the rear floor, that right there is a temporary spare tire, which granted is not a full size, but it is a nice plus in an era when spare tires in general are disappearing. You know, so far this all-wheel drive system has proven to be amazing. We're getting really good response, really quick times, getting us unstuck. Good throttle response too, not too jerky, not too laggy. It's been really, really good, but this is the hardest test. Only one rear tire, the left rear is on the ground. Let's see if we can get unstuck. All right. So, applied some throttle there, got a lot of spinning. Let's try the off-road mode. Let's see if we have more luck in the off-road mode. Come on, that's full throttle now. Okay, well, it's really trying. This is a hard test because these crossovers are typically front-wheel drive biased, although Mazda does overdrive that rear axle by about 1%, but still not quite getting that aggressive torque transfer we need. Let's try sport mode. Okay, so we're getting less traction control intervention, but that is not what we need. We actually need deliberate, controlled, aggressive traction control intervention. Off-road mode definitely felt the most torque transfer in this low view situation. Okay, well, we did get off. I'm not sure if we maybe skidded off, but definitely we were getting kind of that twisting motion as the vehicle tried to pivot around the spinning wheels, and I definitely felt the most torque transfer in the off-road mode. So if you do end up getting stuck in the Mazda, definitely go ahead and stick it in off-road, because that's the mode you need to get the most aggressive traction control response. All right, time for some off-road adventure. Now we are going to head down into the Onyx Off-Road Andres pit course and try the CX-50 through the trenches area, which are these divots cut into the ground at offset angles to get the vehicle unsettled. We're going to see how that four-wheel drive system works and see how the traction is, see if we can get unstuck. Immediately, it is a sloppy and slippery day out there today. We're running on these all-season tires, which don't provide that much grip in this muddy clay, but we'll see if it's enough to get us through the course. And ideally, Mazda, if you're watching this, I'd love to try out the CX-50 Meridian, which is the more off-road focused trim that has the more all-terrain tires on it. And I think that'd be cool to see how that would perform in contrast to the standard CX-50. All right, we're backing down to the start here. Now, I'm really impressed with this 2.5 turbo engine. Certainly one of the quickest in the small crossover class. And more importantly than that, it just has a lot of great midline torque. So it's not a screamer, you know, it doesn't want to be revved to the moon, but that midline passing power right in the heart of the RPM range is really where this engine excels. We're going to go to the off-road mode right away. Diving into the first trench. We take it nice and slow. We don't want to cheat. We just want the vehicle to try to work through it all on its own. Looking already, we're just going completely sideways. There's no grip out here. Ooh. I'm gonna back down. Let's see if we can get this at a better angle. You know, we kind of have to work with the conditions we have, and unfortunately the conditions we have today is poor, the only way to put it. So I'm gonna approach it, a little bit of a different angle, a little bit of momentum, just a little bit. All right, look at that, look at that. Lifted up that front tire, set it down gently. This one I can't take with much speed because we don't have a lot of ground clearance in this vehicle, under 9 inches. Ooh, come on Mazda. Look at that, it's doing it though. It's working it. Come on, Mazda, let's see what you got, buddy. Traction control's working. This is where you want that torque converter automatic. Really gives you a big advantage compared to a dual clutch that some of the Koreans offer. Oh, I can't believe it's doing it in these conditions. Come on. We got the last hill climb. I'm staying foot to the floor. Oh, yes, Mazda! I can't believe we made it through that. These conditions are some of the sloppiest they've been in months, and even on these, ooh, sliding sideways down the hill. Let's see if we can even get up the easy part. And even with these crummy all-season tires, we crawled through that. Really decent approach and departure angles in this Mazda 2. I was so impressed right then with this performance. It's hard to describe just how slimy it is out here, and that all-wheel drive system, it dug deep. It allowed enough torque transfer to the wheels that needed it. It didn't completely kill the engine torque to try to minimize slip. That was a great result. Guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. A huge thank you to cameraman Cole. We'll see you in another episode over at alltfl.com.